Hi there and welcome to our daily video series, Question Reframed. And today's question came through as an interesting one because I hear it as much in my dealings now because I'm dealing with a much smaller organizations. I used to hear it a lot in corporate. It's who should own this system, or who should own this process, or who owns this workflow. And it's usually because they want to know, who are we going to go after when something breaks? And it's a really good question to know that, hey, when shit hits the fan and our customers are pissed off, who's going to own resolving this issue? This is not the right question because it's just a matter of, who am I dumping this off of? That's what it sounds like, at least to me, when people ask this kind of question. And the frustration comes in because there's no thought process or meaningful delineation of who's responsible. It's, well, we'll just dump it off onto IT and IT will deal with it. But it's like, well, wait, is IT really the right people? Maybe depending on what group it is, like, well, maybe it's marketing. Marketing worked out the deal with the software vendor. So shouldn't they own it? Well, maybe not. What if it's a finance application? Maybe finance should be responsible because the integration was developed through their efforts. So it's not really necessarily who owns things, but what is going to be the process to deal with things when they go wrong. So when it comes to me, what I do is find the person that is the receiver of the world's falling apart message. Maybe it's the IT person that gets the first call. Maybe it's the operations person who gets the first call. It really depends. And then we work at looking at who has to be the person that... This is such a hard thing because there's so many different ways that things get broken. It comes down to mapping the flow. That's really what it is. It's like mapping the flow. If something breaks, where did it break? Did it break when somebody... I'll give you a perfect example. I worked at a web conferencing company where someone unplugged a full power strip that was plugged into the wall so that they could plug the coffee pot in to make coffee. This was at a startup, of course. When they did that, they basically turned off all the servers that were plugged into that power strip. And all hell broke loose. That's really a perfect example of the stupid stuff that happens. And it wasn't the engineer's fault. It wasn't the operations people's fault. It was just some... I don't want to use the word, but I really want to... person doing something without thinking about what they were doing. We want to look at who suffers first when something breaks and address that. My example is probably not a good one because what are you going to do? Fire that person because they did something silly and unplug something? I don't know. That's a rough one. Maybe call into question their judgment for unplugging something that is clearly important. What we'll do is say who suffers first when it breaks, and then find out who gets the first call, and then figure out what the hierarchy of contacts is so that we can work through resolutions. We also had what we called the SWAT team when something went wrong. It's a popular thing to do at software companies. This is an interesting one for me, so I've rambled a little bit, so I apologize. I hope you've gotten to the end so that you can see your next step is to assign an owner. And not that, well, I'm going to call your manager or your VP and then that person's going to call, and there's no phone tree. It's no, you just need to assign that one person who's going to be responsible and go up from there. When that person gets a call, they call and the information's phone treed up instead of phone treed down. You'll find that's a lot faster. As always, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, let me know.